Thanks. We're learning new details about the massive search for a shooting suspect we told you about yesterday in Turners Falls. He was later taken into custody last night along I-91, and he faced a judge this afternoon.
Western Mass News reporter Daniel Santiago joins us live from Greenfield with what we now know. Daniel?
Chris, Abby, the suspect has now been identified as 30-year-old Gilles Vieira. On Wednesday, Vieira made an appearance at the Greenfield District Court. He was arrested Tuesday night after Massachusetts State Police conducted a traffic stop on I-91 in Holyoke. Today in court, Western Mass News learned new information about this case. 30-year-old Vieira was born in Springfield but only has identification from the state of Florida, where he also has a license to carry firearms. During his arraignment, prosecutors said Vieira was believed to be couch surfing in someone's apartment in Turner Falls and known to that person as Josh. Investigators say Vieira shot another man in the leg on Tuesday before fleeing into the woods and leading to an hours-long search by state police, various canine units, air wing, and tactical unit. The victim was transported to Bay State Health and is expected to make a full recovery. The relationship between Vieira and the victim is still unknown, as this is an ongoing investigation. There are 11 charges against Vieira, and the Northwestern District Attorney asked that he not be released. Now, the next court date for Vieira is set for September 26, and coming up at 6, I'll have reaction from one of the neighbors that live just across from where it all happened yesterday, and I'll give you more details on the charges that Vieira is facing now. For now, reporting live in Greenfield, Daniel Santiago, Western Mass News.